Professor Wilson and I are still in Kuala Lumpur. I'm like tearing up, man, because I'm going from hot to cold, hot to cold, hot to cold. This air conditioning, hot. We're here, Twin Towers, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I was going to start the introduction, but why don't you do it? Because last time I did, you cut me off. So I'll just let you do the introduction and say what we're going to talk about today in this vlog.
Okay, so we have the Red Man and the Method Man, or you Anthony Kiedis and I'll be Flea, or you Ron Burgundy. Yeah, we just did a conference this morning, and it was in the Asia and Africa Economic Forum as part of the 8th Muslim World Biz Summit, and we were on a panel together, which is it's the first time.
It's the first time.
First time in like kind of all of our.
We've been on all these different. You know what? Let's just focus on our face better. There you go, dude.
First time on a panel.
They saw it. They can now focus.
Yeah, it was kind of like you know, they have like Al Pacino and Robert De Niro in Heat or something. Right? They had like two bodies in between us, and we were like one side of the couch and the other side of the couch, and it was about innovation, entrepreneurship, and making strong Muslim brands.
Yeah, it was striving towards creating strong Muslim brands.
It was actually cool. I'll tell you why it was cool, because you let me speak. Because I had the mic and you didn't have a mic, but also I let you speak as well. And you know, I really enjoyed the fact that we were able to tag team, because sometimes, like, you know, I've learned this from the vlogging. You know, I like the fact I get to bounce off you and you get to bounce off me.
Yeah. And
the Q&A I think was the most enjoyable bit. Whilst, like, you know, I did like 7-minute presentation, you did like a 3-minute presentation. Let's talk about some of the key things that we hit home. There's one of these things. Okay, so the first thing I remember is you had a slide where you said this kind of global Islamic economy.
Yeah.
Are we looking at it above the clouds, or is there something burning down below? What did you mean by that?
Oh, yeah. What I meant was that, you know, I had this visual graphic of just smoke, and you didn't know. And I said, you know, are we above the clouds, or are we looking at the smoke of a fire? And the reason why is because in terms of the global Islamic economy, there's always these numbers thrown out everywhere. That, you know, it's $17 trillion market and this. And I was thinking to myself, okay, there's all this press about halal food, the halal food industry, halal or modest fashion, fintech, Islamic fintech, all the different pharmaceuticals, halal tourism. But the people who are in the room were there for the title of the conference, or at least what we were talking about, which is creating strong Muslim brands. And I said, well, with this title, I can imagine who's here trying to create a strong Muslim brand. And a bunch of hands went up. So I know, okay, the people here have some entrepreneurial goals and they have this spirit. So, okay, these numbers are always presented to you, but don't they seem a bit pie in the sky? Because how do I get a part of that 17 trillion?
That was the thing that, you know, I saw the heads nodding, like when you said, okay, you've got these gazillion trillion numbers or whatever. Yeah. But how does the person who's setting up a business get a piece of that pie? Like, like what do those numbers mean? If there's like a multi-trillion-dollar market, and you just want to shift a couple of units to pay some bills, right? You know, you finally.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
I always cut you off. I'm always cutting you off.
Actually, no, I want to talk about that one now, because we talked about happy money, right? And I alley-ooped you. I said, like,
let me take a step back, because I want to go to what your point was with the gazillion trillion number. First off, I feel that at times the numbers could be a bit fluffed up. Meaning, how were those numbers arrived at, right? Where is that researched? Because what I'm saying is, and I'm only alluding to this point because I remember there was a brother there representing, it was an executive with Nestle, right? And I said, you know, the thing is called Towards Creating Strong Muslim Brands. And I go, who's the largest producer of halal food in the world? It's Nestle, right? And it wasn't a shot at him, and I don't know if he got uncomfortable. And I said, how come as Muslims we can't create the strong Muslim brands? So
you have the
Petronas towers. You have Lewis Hamilton, who just won the
Singapore Formula One. It was like,
and what's all over his Formula One car? Petronas, right? An oil and gas company. So I said in that moment, Malaysia as a country, or Petronas as a Malaysian company in a Muslim country of Malaysia, right? Or did I confuse you right there? They created a strong brand, right? In the Petronas to have a Formula One. Why can't we do that in the halal food industry?
All right, so I'm going to ask.
No, hold on.
But I'm normally the branding guy.
No, but let me get. So I said, why aren't we able to create that kind of brand, right? We have the expertise, we have the know-how, we have Muslims who are creating it. And it's funny because when he started talking, he said, you know, we at Nestle, the thing is that we have, what did he say? You know, we only have 1% of the market, and we're not, you know, 99% still, they're open. And it's well documented that Nestle's killing it in the halal food space. So this was a point for me. I said, see, this is the talk of a true businessman, because when you're killing it, you don't want to talk about how you're killing it. Because when you're killing it, you start attracting attention, right? Antitrust, monopoly, all these points start coming into conversation, because he goes, we only 1%. And I go, bro, it's well documented that Nestle's killing it. You're more than 1%.
Unless he was like, yeah, but in Raga, they big up the man then. Me have enough for all them. But, you know, okay.
That's the point I wanted to make, was that relevant to them, that how do you get that when there's just multinational corporations beefing up those numbers, and it's MNCs that are creating those $1 trillion numbers? Because
big up the brand them. No, all right, so I want to go back to that. Like, you raised a question that's a rhetorical question, right, that got the heads nodding. Like, you got Petronas, you got the Twin Towers. Why doesn't that translate into other markets? And people are like, you're making a good point. So I'm going to push you. What's your answer? Why don't you think it's happening?
Why? What?
Why isn't it? Why aren't there more top brands coming out of Malaysia?
Out of Malaysia?
Yeah, and the Muslim world, like, you know, because you do one, you should be able to do 2, 3, 4.
Why? There isn't. I don't like the whole idea of support. Oh, we need support, because I come from a place where it's like America, there is no support. You gotta do it your dang self. And I feel that in these lands, and I think we addressed this in the University of Oxford vlog, where people are like, we need help. And I come from a mentality like, no, you do it yourself. Because when you're good, money will start flying into you. I think that the top talent, so you have to define the global Islamic economy. Are these companies ran by Muslim founders? Is it companies that could be non-Muslims, it could be Jewish people, but it's Muslim-centric, like it's Muslim-centric, Muslim-focused? Is it for one of the 5 pillars of Islam? Like, I don't understand when people say the global Islamic economy, like, who is it? Who's a part of that?
So you said that you like kind of, you know, pressing the numbers to see whether they actually make sense or add up. And I agree with you, right? But I'm kind of swing between two positions, which is they seem too big, and there's no transparency in how the calculations have been arrived at those figures, that you think, is that for real? But then on the other side, when I think about how I know a lot of people do make the calculations, they go, this is how many Muslims there are, this is the GDP, this is how many kilograms of lamb your average person eats per year, this is how much a kilogram of lamb costs. They add them up, and then you arrive at this number, right? So my point is, they don't look at the halal market, for example, in the way that it's actually coming into the marketplace. So, like, Emirates Airlines does 125,000 halal meals a day. They're not eaten by just Muslims, right?
So see, that's an interesting.
Like in the UK, like a lot of restaurants are owned by Muslims, like, you know, Indian restaurants owned by Bangladeshis, Pakistanis, whoever, right? And they're not just serving halal food for those Muslims that request it off the menu. It's across the board. And you've got Subway that's halal, you've got KFC, like 100 restaurants in the UK. So then when you start to look at it like that, and Pizza Hut, not Pizza Hut, Pizza Express a couple of years ago were in the news because apparently they have halal chicken on their pizzas, but they never publicly disclose that. So there are some serious numbers that are probably even bigger because entrepreneurs are doing their thing. So I want to go back to that word or that phrase that I chucked at you when you were on stage, right? I picked at the mic, and while you were talking, I said happy money.
Happy money.
Because that's I got that from you. What's happy money?
Okay, I'll get to happy money. But you asked me the question about why do you think it's not happening, or why strong brands being created. So let's just focus on, like, for example, modest fashion, right? The modest fashion. Like, how come you have Uniqlo, right? People we always talk about Uniqlo as a brand, how they've teamed up with designers and artists and people who are creatives, and they're very design centric, right? And it may be a minimalist approach, but it's very design focused. But that's just the whole Japanese aesthetic. And they're also very highly focused on, the details,
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
of the material.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's, you know, is it permeable? Does it breathe? And then it also looks good. So you have Uniqlo coming out of Japan. In terms of why I feel there may not be brands that are coming out strong from the Muslim countries, I could feel that. So that's why I'm saying the GIE, because, so for example, let's say you have Petronas. I don't know, I haven't researched this, or one of these big companies here, they're started by Muslims.
Yeah.
Would that be considered part of the global Islamic economy? Because if you have these Muslim, you know, these Muslim countries that have these massive buildings and massive economies, is that part of the global Islamic economy? Like,
I think you made a point where you spoke about Muslims being not so good at supporting, but celebrating success when it arrives, if it arrives, right?
and see, the celebration part is the key thing here, because
Yeah.
what if the Muslim...
So if it was
Hold on.
if it was
No,
a big
hold on.
brand, I'm going to answer that question.
What if the Muslim is drinking alcohol? What if the Muslim doesn't pray? What if the Muslim has nothing to do with Islam, but yeah, he's Muslim, but he doesn't like, I'm Muslimican. You know what I mean? Like,
Muslimican.
like,
Okay.
is that celebrated? Because I've met Muslims, they may not be praying, they may not be anything except Muslim by culture. And they've told me, and they've done well. They've exited, they've sold several companies, and they go, Muslims don't celebrate me at all. Muslims don't care that I've done anything for them.
Do you know, I think there's a little, I think I go back to that thing, it depends on success. So if it's like, if there is some form of success and it's open to be, you know, there are two terms I kind of look at when I look at a lot of branding or whatever. There's appreciation and there's appropriation, right?
Okay.
And there's always this tension. So I think people are open to appreciating and appropriating, therefore, if it's something that they can put under the umbrella credibly within the global Islamic economy.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily make it right or wrong or good or bad, but I think if they know that someone is open to celebrating that success, and that's probably in a whole new vlog about how Muslims perceive themselves and how they come, like, you know, those who choose to define themselves by a Muslim identity linked to business, and those that would rather not, like, you know.
Yeah. So that's my issue with, you know, why aren't we creating it? And I'm like, we might be, we're just not celebrating them, as you alluded to.
Yeah.
The thing is that if these massive towers, buildings, companies, malls are being created by Muslims, by Muhammad Abdullah, why isn't that considered like a great Muslim brand?
See, one of my favorite Muslim brands.
Does it have to be a part of the 5 pillars of Islam for it to be considered the global Islamic economy? Does it have to tackle Ramadan or fasting or praying to be considered part of the GIE? That's where, you know, I think people are getting narrow, or they just don't understand what's here.
You know what,
like, what's going on?
Some consultants, or, you know, some of these top firms would probably want to define a methodology that pins those things down.
Yeah.
And, you know, as an academic, then there's a lot of us kind of drilling down on these technical things.
Yeah.
But when I look at things, a lot of my research, we call it phenomenological, right?
Okay.
Now, a phenomenon is something which is currently happening that you don't know everything about, but it's never happened before.
Yeah.
Right. So let's think about 2 top brands, and within this, I would include personal branding. May Allah have mercy on him, right? But Muhammad Ali,
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm going to talk about Yusuf Islam as well, right? So 2 kind of personal brands, but people that never necessarily went out to create personal brands, right? They didn't have a social media profile and all that kind of stuff.
They were just good.
They were just
good in what, and that's another thing about the GIE is that people are like, oh, I need support. No, you don't need support because you're not good enough.
So the thing is, right?
If you're good, the support will come. Okay.
With goods, like Muhammad Ali was a boxer.
Yeah.
Now, if you define boxing, like if you went to some mufti or something and said, is boxing allowed? Like, should I do boxing? They're not going to encourage you to do boxing because it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's damaging.
Yeah.
But he got like an exemption, right? Because he was just doing so many great things. His identity was out there. He was doing so much good dawah, and he was doing something great for, if we want to call it brand Islam.
Yeah.
Yusuf Islam is someone who's interesting as well, because by his own decision he stopped doing music, and then came back again.
Yeah.
And I'm really happy he did, to be honest.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But there's that tension where a lot of people are like, you know, have you regressed? Have you sold out? You know, because a lot of Muslims backed him. They're like, okay, fine, he's done a lot of charity work and he's appeared and kind of, and then there's that difficult period where people are like, we don't know if we can support you as brand Yusuf Islam as a musician, because it's going against all of these organizations that you supported that prohibit music, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of think that people have kind of pushed back because they're like, you know what, we have a lot of love for this brother, right?
Yeah.
So my feeling is that things should be decided on a case-by-case basis, because otherwise you're just gonna kill it. Like, no one is gonna live up to those classifications and expectations, so that you define a Muslim brand as all of these values and ideals and everything, and no company ticks the boxes, like halal company, but founded on like kind of on credit, right? Or not using an Islamic finance account. Or so some people say that if you have halal, that you should have all of these things in place, but if you do, no one's going to be able to get started. Now, this is not me encouraging people to do haram or whatever, but it's a serious thing. So I think...
So would Cat Stevens be a part of the GIE? That's what you're sort of like trying to say.
Man, when I write, I put him there because, like, you know...
Because he would be, right? I mean, because he's a Muslim founder of his particular record company, right?
Yeah,
he's
a philanthropist.
So that's someone who is a Muslim who's part of the global Islamic economy. He would be falling under the box of entertainment, right? Muslim entertainment.
He hovers, man, because he's a philanthropist.
Before Neymar.
Like, he had...
Before Neymar, who made the most money as a footballer?
Paul Pogba.
And Paul Pogba of Man U.
Okay, yeah.
Of Man
U. Come on, fellas!
Is Muslim.
Yeah.
So would he be part of the entertainment box of the GIE? Right? Because there's so many, you hear in the Muslim world, like in Malaysia, there's so many people wearing...
Does the GIE actually have a category for sport, or do people just like watch sport and eat pizza? You know what I mean?
That's my thing, right? Is that there are so many different brands. You got Paul Pogba, you have Muhammad Ali, you have Cat Stevens.
Mos Def.
Yeah. Whose reach is phenomenal.
Dave Chappelle.
Yeah.
Muslim.
And you have all these businessmen that may not be celebrated, but they're Muslim, but they're not part of the GIE. So that's why it's a little murky in terms of, I don't know how these numbers have been reached. The numbers may be actually bigger.
I'm saying that. And I'm actually saying that, you know, this is maybe another take home, that and I have this discussion with students. You know, I've got one PhD student. I'm going to mention Nihal. Assalamu alaikum, how you doing, right? Inshallah, this year she finishes her PhD, but she's been looking at offensive advertising in Egypt and the different factors. Now, how you measure what is offensive, and, you know, whether you do surveys, focus groups, whatever, one of the things that took us a bit of time of debating was she wanted to measure religiosity, which actually Malaysia did it. I remember a few years ago they had a religiosity scale, but she was wanting to try and measure this element of religiosity to then assess how offended people would be linked according to their religious practice. We debate for a long time, and I got to drop that idea because, you know, people have good days, bad days, iman goes up and down. You ask somebody, like, do you pray, do you fast? Like, you know, on the real, we all know this. You can see people that pray, that fast, that do Hajj, and they're rotten to the core, right? So I don't want to measure, but I want to observe in a more ethnographic way and kind of read the play, right? So it's difficult because people like the security of numbers and defining this is what this category is or whatever, but in reality we should be celebrating things that we feel credibly can enter those spaces and not being so prescriptive. This is why personal branding, I would say, I would include as part of brand theory, where there are some professors, you know, we had a debate on LinkedIn who said that personal branding doesn't exist or it's not. Well, you know what, you can grow up, mate. You know, the dude with a website, with his autograph on it, with his own mini MBA, right? Come on, man. Now, I think it's interesting then. So when you come back to this brand thing, I came up with an acronym that I'm going to give you a slide on that you can kind of plonk in there. I want to talk about two things, right? And I asked this to the audience, and they kind of nodded their head on this one. Personality and excitement. Or I actually had excitement stroke empathy. Because I think if you're a proactive brand, you got to excite people. If you're reactive because maybe you're responding to a crisis, you got to be empathic, right? You can't excite people in a crisis, right? But if we look at it like that, top brands have personality and excitement. Petronas does when it's doing Formula One. It does with the Twin Towers. Right? It's got lovely kind of that shade of kind of pastel bluey turquoise. I think it's popping. Right? So they don't have competition within that space because within their particular sector, they are shouting loud and proud. They're just exciting.
Yeah.
But then if you look at fashion or food, the competition is higher and different, like to exceed expectations. So if you look at Muslim brands in that space, which ones do have personality and are exciting? And so I think someone tweeted as well, they were like, they made that comment, like, how many Muslim brands do you know that actually excite you? Is the question that I asked.
Yeah.
I know of other brands that excite me,
But that's what I'm saying, in terms of what Muslim brands, if it's, let's say, two Muslim brothers who are making little screws for Apple, right? Apple sources them, and I think Apple's probably making their own screws now, but let's just say that, for example. Two guys are making screws for some big multinational, right? Zayd and Amr. Zayd and Amr Abdullah. Would this be celebrated as a great Muslim company that shouts like, wow, success? That's what I'm trying to talk about, is that there's so many that may be flying under the radar or may not be falling in regard to the five, that are not addressing the 5 pillars of Islam. But then people are like, oh, we don't have any great company. I would probably venture to say there are. It's just that we don't want to categorize them as that. Why? Because they're not shouting like, you gotta pray all 5 prayers, or no alcohol. It's like, no, I make gravel for all of Western Indonesia. So is that a great Muslim company? Is that a part of the GIE?
I think that actually, like, we're talking about the global Islamic economy, but essentially what we're debating is a fairly standard philosophical debate that actually you could apply to a variety of sectors, like national identity. Who's British and who's not? So, like, my father's white, is from Scotland. That kind of, people would argue that could give me a bit more juice than the other black person whose father is black and his mother's white, because does that make that makes sense. But you get what I'm actually, the debate is just stupid. It's it's full of fallacies, right? Essentially, you need to, it's not about how you classify it, it's about how you move forward, right? Sport is a very good example of, like, funny, isn't it, how they started to relax some of the requirements as to what would define you as having a national identity when it comes to sport, because they want to win, right? For rugby, it's like one of your grandparents has to be from that nation, and it's all good. Like, how many, like, Samoans and New Zealanders?
Indonesia's just taking people from Kenya and from Cameroon. Here's a passport.
One grandparent, right?
Not even one grandparent. It's like, here, just come around. Here's a passport. You're Indonesian. It's like, wait, that guy doesn't.
So, when we look at the global Islamic economy like that, if we're talking about winning, it's not, those rules aren't built to win. They're built to, like, knock people out, right? Because basically it's like, nah, you're not from the GCC. Nah, this, nah. Like, people are just getting, like, struck off. Because they want to have some kind of, there's a lot of geopolitics. It's kind of politically correct, aesthetically pure. Actually, let's replace pure with kind of sterile company. And then they hope that they can kind of builds that and inculcate various other things and kind of that culture. Doesn't work like that. Cultures don't work like that, right? There was something else I was going to say. Oh yeah, you came up with a good point, because when we were talking about being on the defense, and then you made a point about the Premier League, right? The football Premier League, which is kind of good for an American, right? Because Rolls, he's like, this year's like, Wilson, I'd be like, he's been thinking, like, he's realized he's come here and he can't talk baseball, right?
I can't talk, because I can't talk American football.
It's football, it's soccer, but it's like, so you said if a football club loses the Premier League, what do they then, you put another rhetorical question. Can you remember what it is?
So what I said is, when you lose the championship game in the Premier League, right? Next season, first game of the season, you don't start thinking to yourself, as a winner, you don't think, man, we lost last year. You think to yourself, this year we're going to kill it. And I feel that as Muslims, in the socio-political time that we're currently in, we're constantly playing defense. And for me, the cloth I'm cut from, I don't think like that. I don't think of, oh my gosh, I want to be accepted. Oh my gosh, I hope that they like me. I've never thought like that. I genuinely, authentically feel that I'm American. Yes, my parents are from the Philippines, but that doesn't take it. I don't know anything but California as a child. Yes, I went to other countries, I went to other places, I went out of state, but I'm Californian through and through. I'm American. I don't know anything else about these other countries until I was older, lived in them, and I was always considered an outsider. That's the American guy. So my thing is that we as Muslims, we always have this, like that one slide you had. As Muslims, someone did actually say it today in the
Let me talk about that in a minute, because I just want to, in my kind of frivolous way.
Okay, right. So let me end this with, Muslims need to be offensive in the mentality, and not so, I want to be accepted, I want to be taken in. You just have to be good. You just have to, hold on. You have to excel, and you have to be committed to excellence. When you're good, when you're excellent, people recognize that.
All right, preacher man, you made that point.
No, hold on.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying, is that we need to get out of that mentality. Right. I just don't understand that. And the way I work, man, you just keep going. We're good. Keep your head down. Keep working good. People will come to support you.
Preacher Geraldine has issued a sermon there, right? So the other thing that we spoke about afterwards was that when clubs want to win the Premier League next season, what do they buy?
They buy pure offense, man. Strikers.
Right. You buy goal scorers, right?
Yeah.
So if we want to take things forward, how many companies actually buy goal scorers? Like people that are going to like put the ball in the back of the net. Like they don't.
No, they're trying to cut corners. They're trying to save every single penny and dime.
And you never score goals.
Nah, and you've got to like shell out the money.
Yeah.
To get to Paris Saint-Germain got Neymar.
Yeah.
They put out tons of money.
Manchester United got Lukaku and sold Rooney.
Yeah.
And Everton bought Rooney.
Yeah.
His home club, like, his childhood club. And we were in a mamak a couple of days ago, eating roti pisang, watching Manchester United murder Everton 4-0. 4-0. To me, that's like, okay, there's a business lesson there, right?
Yeah.
You basically swapped strikers. And we got 4, you got 0.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Offensive mind state, not this like, oh my God, they don't like me. It's like, no, in the off season, what we're going to do is we're going to stack our team with the best talent, bring in the best people, so we can just kick butt. We don't care what they're doing in the off season. We care about what we're doing.
All right, it's Mr. California, man. So, California Dreaming, Mamas and Papas, or Hotel California.
Hotel California, man.
Or California Tupac.
Ooh.
California.
Wow.
What would be your anthem if you needed a track to come home to?
I mean, I grew up on Tupac, man. Like
so that would be your.
But I mean, I remember coming out of the. I don't know why the Moroccans were on this. I was coming out of the desert. It's good 2-3 decades after the Eagles.
Yeah.
Right? I got home, coming out of the desert, going to Morocco. Everyone was playing Hotel California like it just came out yesterday.
Really?
Yeah, it was so weird. Yeah. And I was like, I asked my host, what's going on here? Why is everyone playing this song? He's like, oh, we just like it. 3 decades later? Like, I don't get it.
Such a lovely place.
I would have to say, I would say Tupac, California Love. And it's interesting that DJs were asked what particular songs, when you put out anywhere in the world, people get off the walls and come onto the dance floor, and a lot of them said, California Love by Tupac, which is really interesting because it's talking about, and it's one of my
it's like EPMD break as well, isn't it?
No, that's Roger Troutman. No, that's Roger and Zepp. That's Roger.
I thought EPMD used the same break.
No, everyone's used that beat.
Right,
everyone's used that beat. But what I'm saying, like that's Roger. That's right. That auto tune part that what you're doing, that's Roger.
Oh yeah.
So I would have to end with Tupac, California Love. Actually, now you can see the towers.
Happy Money. You didn't talk about Happy. Let's not end yet. Happy Money.
We actually have to go. We have to go to this dinner. We're actually going to be really late for this dinner. We'll do a vlog on this.
Okay.
Happy Money is something we're going to talk about.
Happy Money, and what was I going to talk about as well?
Yeah, we'll come up with it later. Anyways, it's been It's getting close to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Twin Towers are looking and shining brightly right now. We're going to be late for this dinner.
I was crying. Nose running.
My nose is running. I'm just sick. I'm telling you, it's air conditioned to just hot. Air conditioned to hot. It's just messing my
Geraldine,
body.
honey. I have to say as well, right? Professor Farida Hassan, like good friend of mine, former dean of UIT Amara. She kept calling him Geraldine. And I said, his name is like Geraldine, but I said Geraldez. And she goes, yeah, but Geraldine is the more masculine.
She said it's more masculine. And I said, Geraldine, where I'm from, is straight feminine. And she goes, it is? I go, yeah, do not call me Geraldine. But anyways, we'll end there. Geraldine. Mr. Geraldine, as well as the Hendrix of Branding, tuning out from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Thank you.
Oh, my God.